Today, we're diving into, well, probably one of the most high stakes, uh, maybe speculative technology sectors out there right now, quantum computing.
Absolutely. And we're not just looking at the tech itself, are we?
Right.
We're focusing on the battle, really.
Exactly. The financial and strategic battle for who's going to lead this thing,
Yeah.
specifically between the two big pure play U.S. stocks, IonQ, that's IONQ, and Rigetti Computing, RGTI.
Yeah, it's a fascinating matchup. The sources we looked at really frame this as a clash of titans.
Yeah.
And it's built on completely different ideas about how to get there.
Right. And these companies, their valuations aren't really about today's revenue, which is, let's be honest, tiny.
Oh, minuscule.
Mm,
It's all about the future, isn't it? That potential multi-billion-dollar market they're all chasing. The pressure must be incredible. High risk, high reward.
totally. So our mission today is to dig into their strategies, the tech choices they've made, and crucially, their financials, their war chests, to figure out which one seems to have maybe the stronger story for the long haul.
And you mentioned those different philosophies. That's the core divide, right?
Let's define that right up front. What's the split?
Okay, so IonQ, they've really planted their flag on quality first. They're all about fidelity, accuracy, and building out this whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
They want the perfect qubit, basically.
The perfect quibit.
Okay.
And Rigetti.
Rigetti's taking a completely different path. They're focused on speed, manufacturing scale, uh, getting operations running fast. It's like they're betting they can scale up quickly and then sort of patch the problems later.
Speed first, fix later. So this fundamental difference, it really comes down to the hardware itself, right? The qubits?
Exactly. They're using totally different technologies, different modalities, and that choice impacts everything: cost, power, scalability.
Let's start with IonQ. I kind of think of them as the high precision craftsman in this analogy.
Okay, the craftsman. Their tech is the trapped ion approach. I mean, reading about it, it sounds like something out of science fiction. How does it actually work, and why does that lead to quality? Right. It does sound futuristic. They take individual atoms, specifically certain types of ytterbium and barium, and they trap them, suspend them in a vacuum using electromagnetic fields. Lasers then manipulate these atoms.
Okay.
The key idea, the real insight, is that every single atom of ytterbium, for example, is physically identical. Nature makes them perfect.
Hmm.
So you're starting with a naturally perfect qubit. That's why IonQ can really focus on that quality aspect.
And that perfection, it shows up in the numbers, right? The sources mentioned really high fidelity, like 2-qubit gate fidelity over 99.9%. Now, for someone not deep in quantum, why does that extra fraction of a percent matter so much?
Oh, it's absolutely critical. Think of it like compounding errors. In quantum, tiny errors snowball incredibly fast. If your basic operation is 99.9% accurate, that's maybe one error in 1,000.
Pretty good.
Excellent, yeah. But if your competitor's at 99%, that's one error in 100. That calculation's going to fall apart much quicker. IonQ's trying to minimize those errors right from the very beginning.
And they also talk about these really long coherence times, like 10 to 100 seconds. What does coherence time actually mean in practice?
Coherence time is basically how long that qubit stays in its useful quantum state before it just decoheres, loses the information. Think of it like the battery life for your quantum calculation.
Ah,
Many other approaches, especially the superconducting ones Rigetti uses, might only stay coherent for microseconds or milliseconds. IonQ's seconds-long time means their qubits can run much longer, more complex algorithms before needing a reset. It's a huge advantage for complex problems.
okay, this next part really caught my eye. In the sources, their all-to-all connectivity. What's that about?
Yeah, this is a really big deal and maybe a bit underappreciated sometimes. Because their qubits, the atoms, are held in this trap and manipulated by lasers, essentially any qubit can interact directly with any other qubit in the system.
So they don't need to be neighbors.
Exactly, they don't need to be right next to each other. And this avoids something called swap operations.
Okay, swap operations. Why are those bad? Why is avoiding them good?
Imagine you need two qubits at opposite ends of the processor to interact. If you don't have all-to-all connectivity, you have to physically swap the quantum state of one qubit with its neighbor, then that neighbor swaps with its neighbor, and so on, step by step across the chip until the information gets where it needs to go.
Like a bucket brigade.
Precisely. And each one of those swaps, each step in the relay takes time and, crucially, introduces another chance for an error. It degrades the overall fidelity.
Ah, I see. So IonQ just skips that whole error-prone relay.
They skip it entirely. Direct connection. Cleaner, more accurate computation, even if the individual steps take longer.
So that's the trade-off then. All this quality and connectivity comes at the cost of speed.
That's the trade-off. Manipulating individual atoms with lasers isn't super fast. Their gate operations are measured in microseconds.
Microseconds. Okay, now let's flip to Rigetti, the mass producer, you called them. They're using superconducting circuits. This is more like what IBM and Google are doing, right?
Exactly. The downside is still the inherent nature of these manufactured qubits. They're artificial structures, so they're more sensitive to noise. They have those shorter coherence times we talked about, and generally higher error rates compared to a perfect atom.
And they do need those swap operations because they don't have that all-to-all connectivity.
Right, their connectivity is much more restricted, usually just nearest neighbor. So they rely heavily on those swaps, which adds time and introduces errors, compounding their initial error rate issues.
So it's this fundamental tension. Rigetti is super fast, but maybe a bit sloppier and needs swaps. IonQ is slower, but incredibly precise and fully connected.
Exactly. And this tension is why you see IonQ pushing their algorithmic qubit metric, the hashtag AQ score, so hard.
Right, what does that measure again?
It's basically trying to measure how many useful qubits you have for running a real algorithm, considering fidelity and connectivity, not just the raw physical qubit count. It's IonQ saying, hey, don't just count qubits. Rigetti might have more physical ones soon, count what you can actually do with them. It's a quality over quantity argument.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears from the tech itself to the business side. Building the moat. How are they protecting their turf?
Rigetti's moat seems very focused on that core hardware specialization, perfecting and scaling their superconducting processors. They've got around 290 patents, mostly centered on that multi-chip approach and hybrid quantum classical systems. It's a classic deep tech hardware play.
Okay, focused. But IonQ, the sources suggest they're playing a much broader game now. It's not just about the processor anymore.
Not at all. This is maybe the most interesting strategic divergence. IonQ has shifted gears from just being a hardware company to becoming an ecosystem builder. They seem to be aiming for a really deep systemic lock-in.
How are they doing that? What's the evidence?
Look at their acquisitions. They've been aggressive. Quabitech for quantum networking. ID Quantique for quantum-safe cryptography and security. LightSync for photonic interconnects to link systems together.
Okay, connect the dots for us. Why buy a quantum cryptography company if you're building a quantum computer? How does that build a moat?
Think about it. The moment someone builds a truly powerful, fault-tolerant quantum computer,
All current encryption is broken.
instantly obsolete.
Yeah.
Exactly. So by buying ID Quantique, IonQ isn't just selling the computer that breaks the code, they're positioning themselves to sell the new quantum-safe encryption needed in that future. And with Quabitech, they want to build the secure quantum networks, the quantum internet pipes that these computers will need to talk to each other securely.
Wow, so they want to sell the computer, the secure network it runs on, and the security software needed because the computer exists.
That's the vision.
Yeah.
It's incredibly ambitious. They want to provide the whole infrastructure stack.
Yeah.
That's a potentially much, much wider and more defensible moat than just having the best processor at any given moment.
And they've got the market access piece already moving in that direction, too.
They do. Being available on all three major clouds, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, is a significant advantage right now. Nobody else has that reach. It makes it easier for companies and developers to start using their hardware, embedding them deeper into the workflow early on.
Okay, let's talk money. Because this is where the differences become, well, kind of jaw-dropping. First, the elephant in the room, the valuations.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. Price-to-sales ratios are astronomical. IonQ around 350x, Rigetti over 600x sales.
So we need to be clear, you're not investing based on today's performance.
Not even close.
Right.
This is pure speculation on who wins a massive future market, maybe 5, 10 years down the line. It's
Right.
all potential.
But even in the speculative world, someone needs to actually sell something. Commercial execution matters. Who's actually landing contracts and bringing in revenue?
And here, IonQ has shown really impressive, consistent growth. The numbers are stark. Their revenue went from about $11 million in 2022 to over $43 million in 2024. They've been basically doubling year over year.
Doubling, wow.
And their guidance for 2025 is strong too, between $82 and $100 million. That shows their approach is actually resonating in the market. People are paying for access to their machines.
And Rigetti.
That's where it gets concerning. Rigetti's revenue has actually been declining. It peaked around $13 million in 2022, dropped to under $11 million in 2024, and their trailing 12-month revenue is even lower, around $8 million.
Declining revenue in a sector that's supposed to be exploding? That's not good.
It's a major red flag. It suggests they're having trouble converting their technical progress, their speed advantage, into actual commercial deals and market traction.
Okay, and that revenue struggle directly impacts their ability to keep funding this incredibly expensive research.
Yep.
Let's compare the war chests. Who has more cash to burn?
IonQ, by a mile. After a recent equity financing round, they're sitting on a pro forma cash and investments pile of roughly $1.6 billion.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B.
Yeah.
It's an enormous amount of firepower. It gives them runway for years of R&D, lets them make more strategic acquisitions if they want, and basically allows them to potentially outlast competitors.
And Rigetti's cash position.
They ended Q2 2025 with about $571 million in cash and investments. Now, $500 million is nothing. It's a decent runway.
But it's dwarfed by IonQ's $1.6 billion.
Completely dwarfed. In this kind of deep tech race where you need sustained, heavy investment for years before profitability, having the bigger war chest is a massive strategic advantage. IonQ clearly has the edge there.
All right, let's talk risks. Every company has them. We know the industry-wide ones. It could take 5–10 years for anyone to show real quantum advantage. Technology could change on a dime. They all burn cash like crazy.
Right. Those apply to everyone in the space.
But what about the unique risks? The specific Achilles heel for each of these two?
For IonQ, the big unique risk comes directly from that ambitious ecosystem strategy, integration risk.
Meaning making all those acquisitions actually work together.
Exactly. Buying Quivitech and ID Quantique and LightSync is one thing. Successfully merging their technologies, their teams, their company cultures into one seamless quantum infrastructure offering. That's incredibly difficult. If they mess up the integration, that grand strategic vision could fall apart.
Okay, complex strategy, complex risks, makes sense. And for Rigetti, with their declining revenue.
Their risk is arguably more fundamental, more existential. Commercialization failure. They're building fast hardware, yes. But if the market doesn't buy it, if they can't turn that tech into revenue growth,
then the funding dries up eventually.
Precisely. They can't just keep funding the R&D through selling more stock indefinitely without proving there's a real paying market for their specific approach. Their biggest threat is running out of time and money before they can demonstrate commercial viability.
So bringing it all together, the tech, the strategy, the money, the risks, where do the sources seem to lean? Who looks like the stronger bet right now for long-term growth?
Yeah. Well, you have to give Rigetti credit for their engineering, pushing the speed and scaling angles with superconducting tech. But based on the evidence presented in the sources we reviewed, IonQ comes out looking considerably stronger.
Why specifically? What are the key factors?
It really boils down to IonQ having demonstrated commercial execution that revenue growth is real. They have vastly superior financial strength with a huge cash reserve. And they have that broader, potentially much more powerful strategic vision of owning the whole ecosystem.
So let's summarize IonQ's edge into maybe 3 key pillars.
Yeah, I think that works. Pillar 1, proven commercial execution. They're actually selling and growing fast, validating their model in a way Rigetti hasn't yet.
Pillar 2.
Superior financial strength.
Yeah.
That $1.6 billion war chest gives them immense stability and options that Rigetti just doesn't have to the same degree.
And Pillar 3, broader strategic vision. They're not just building a computer. They're trying to build the entire quantum infrastructure, computing, networking, security. It's a bigger, potentially stickier long-term play.
Now, having said all that, a crucial reminder for you, the listener. This is based on today's data, today's picture.
Right. The future's definitely not written yet.
Not at all. Quantum computing is moving incredibly fast. Some other technology, photonics, neutral atoms, who knows, could have a breakthrough tomorrow and completely change the game. Today's leader isn't guaranteed to be tomorrow's winner.
Absolutely. And remember, any investment in this space is inherently high risk, highly speculative. You really need to do your own homework and decide based on your own risk tolerance.
The final call is always yours.
Well, this has been a fascinating clash to unpack. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here. Join us next time for another U.S. stock battle, where we'll break down another pair of rivals.